Hello, world. The economy is basically in the toilet. We all know it. We're all feeling it. And, I can't be silent about it anymore, So this is just more of like a vlog to vent about the current state of affairs here in the United States. I know where I live in Washington, D.C., it's like pretty expensive. And, I get the feeling, I travel a lot and I find that whenever I go to a certain place in the country, regardless of where it is, things are still expensive. Even in places in which you would think that they wouldn't be, they are. And so it's really disheartening, especially considering the fact that there are so many people who have expressed just how stressed they feel about the current economic time frame that we're living in and how distraught and demoralizing it is right now. You could be doing what some would consider fairly well and still like not be able to save any money whatsoever. A little bit about myself. I feel it often. I feel like I struggle sometimes, as is the case with most people these days. And I don't know if I should be. And I say that because I have four different types of income streams at the moment. I've got my job for the most part. I should mention I have a director position. I oversee a financial department for a nonprofit organization in DC, and it's been an incredibly gratifying experience. I'm also a landlord. I was fortunate enough to buy a property when I was younger, and I turned it into an investment property. And I hope to continue buying more. But it's like the housing market is just like, and the interest rates are just like so freaking high. I don't know if and when I'll be able to do that. I also play in four band ensembles, two of which are more active than the other two. But I find myself doing a lot of gigging on the weekends and getting paid for that as well. And I also have a small business. So those are my four streams of income. And I still don't feel like it's enough. As crazy as that sounds, I think most people in the country have one stream of income, and that is from their job. And I can only feel like that is just not anywhere near enough now just to survive. And I just can't help but wonder how people are affording life. It's almost like, nobody talks about how they're going about doing it because, it's like personal, like the type of stuff you don't really just go around telling people. And people don't really feel inclined to pry because it's considered rude. So it's like something people keep to themselves. But if I had to venture a guess, I think that people are staying with their parents longer. I think people are living with their parents longer than beforehand. I think more and more people are living with greater amounts of people than in decades prior. I think you're going to see more and more of that. I think more and more people are going to start to have to build little communities for themselves as a means to get by, because as opposed to in the past, the economic time frame was so different. In the 50s and 60s, you could have made about $40,000 a year and still have afforded to purchase a home and support a small family off of one income, just one. Fast forward to today, that is impossible. There's no way to go about that. It's not going to have the average income you have to have just to buy a house now is $120,000. As if most people make that or even close to that. They don't. I think I read online the median household income for Americans is like some 58,000. That's household income. Okay, that's not individual income. That's the income of a household. Okay, so like at least more than one person. So, if the individual income is even lower than that, I mean, that's just, but I digress. The point is like, okay, I know that I am in like somewhat of a more like blessed, fortunate situation. But even still, if it's hard for me, I can't imagine what it's like for the average American. And that is just so disheartening because if this is the average person that's having this experience, if so many people are having this experience, given the sheer size of our country, that's over 350 million plus people, and 2/3 are living paycheck to paycheck, according to the Census Bureau. That's terrible. That is so sad. And I just can't help but feel like that's just not like the life that we should be striving to live for. You know, if this truly is like the land of opportunity, and obviously I'm sure it's harder in some other countries. There are definitely more lesser developed nations that have it tough, but like for all intents and purposes, focusing on the status of the United States and what the situation is here economically. I would go so far as to say that, you know, you would think that me telling you this, like, you might think, oh, okay, well, you've probably got it better than other people. Why are you out here complaining? Well, one, I care about my fellow countrymen and women. Two, I think it's important to have this type of dialogue so that we can be honest with each other and what the adversity is, what the problem is, maybe as a means to brainstorm how we could go about solving it. And three, journalistic purposes, I guess you could say. But every time I walk outside, I don't know what it is. Like I just feel like sometimes like something comes up every day that requires me to spend more money than I anticipated. $100 here, $200 there. Car payment, freaking food, gas, upkeep, maintenance on a vehicle. I just dropped $1,400 last month on repair or upkeep for my car. In one day I spent $1,400. I had just gotten my paycheck too. I was like, wow, that's the fact that everything has gotten so expensive is just nothing less than incredible. It's phenomenal. The pandemic just had such a significant adverse effect on the economy. We're still feeling the effects of it some years later. Some people don't know why things are so expensive. That's why things are so expensive. Okay, because we had global supply chains broken by coronavirus restrictions, excess demand, not enough supply, too many dollars chasing too few goods, in addition to increased government spending as a means to keep the economy buoyant for programs such as Paycheck Protection Program, the Employee Retention Tax Credit. We invested lots of money into vaccine research as a means to streamline the process of creating vaccinations to mitigate the virus, things like that. The government had to spend a lot of money. Government spending is inherently inflationary. We had to print a lot of money. When you print more currency, when you print more money, that devalues your currency. If there's more money in circulation, it becomes less valuable. All of these things, and it's just been like this wild roller coaster because whether anyone wants to admit it or not, money does affect your life in so many different ways you can't comprehend. And yeah, like I said, I can't help but wonder what more a person has to do just to survive. You've got people out here working 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week, breaking their backs, just trying to live. 40 to 60% of their income goes to rent or mortgage. If they're lucky to own a home. Now it's like no one is freaking buying homes anymore. They just can't afford to. The costs of homes are so freaking high. And the qualifying income you need is astronomical, 120K a year. You know, I acknowledge, I was one of those, I am one of those lucky people to have purchased a home, in my mid 20s. But that's not going to be the case for a lot of people. And, I'm not like, a genius or anything like that. I'm not stupid, but I'm definitely not like Einstein or Tesla or anything like that. I'm just like a regular guy who, is doing the best he can, trying to work really hard. And I just happen to be blessed to be in an area that is got a lot of economic opportunity and has got great educational institutions. And I think it was the opportunities that were afforded to me in addition to my work ethic that helped me to get to where I am. I think you need both. I think you need the opportunity and the work ethic to succeed, because it's like in the absence, if you have the absence of one, it's like virtually impossible now. Because you can try really hard, but if the externalities working against you are just so much more substantial than you are, then there's not much you can do. And that's the problem that people don't understand right now with regard to what's going on in this country. It's that there are economic forces pressing against people, that they are completely helpless to defend themselves from. But people will just write that off as them being lazy. Oh, like pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You're just not working hard enough. You just got to work harder, take on another job, go back to school. As if like the cost of education hasn't become like incredibly absorbent. As if it's not like tens of thousands of dollars, like for some of these schools, like, and then it's like education has become so proliferated. Now everyone's got a degree. Okay, you get a degree, you get a degree. Everyone gets degrees. It's like the Oprah show, in which you can just kind of like, you look under your seat and like you got a degree. Point is, everyone's got one now. It's such an incredibly competitive market. You've got one. Guess what? It's not special because she's got one and he's got one and he's got one. And it's like the job market's a joke because not only are there not a whole lot of good quality jobs to go around, but everybody wants them. And these employers they're flooded with candidates. It's just like, it's almost like I think back to the film The Incredibles, the Disney film. There's that one scene with the kid, Dash, and his mom. And his mom looks at him and she says, "Everybody's special, Dash." And like he looks away and he just says, which is another way of saying that no one is. And then there's a villain in the film. And, he says something pretty profound. He says, when everybody's special, no one will be. And that always kind of stuck out to me. If everybody is so educated, if everybody has a college degree, then it kind of just like diminishes the value that it has. And that's sort of like where we're at right now. I keep seeing videos online about like people who went to prestigious universities and they got degrees in computer science, excuse me, and or computer engineering, and they have been out of school for years and they still can't find work. What kind of twist of fate is that? Like, you invest all this money into a university that's prestigious, you acquire a degree, and then nothing. I saw a video about a guy who submitted like over 2,000 job applications and didn't get a single interview. Computer science degree and everything. That's tough. That's really tough. And then less and less of these employers are interested in hiring kids, recent college graduates, because they perceive them as being lazy. And I'm not saying that's like not entirely the case. I think to an extent, like Gen Z is kind of asleep at the wheel and they're in for a rude awakening. But say you're, and this is what I'm afraid about overgeneralizations, because I'm sure there are plenty of talented kids. Like I don't know if this generation is, I wouldn't call them stupid per se. I'm sure there are like plenty of incredibly talented people. Yeah, every generation has like, you're not so bright people, but I'm sure, I'm fairly certain there are plenty of people within Gen Z, millennials that are absolutely exceptional, but they won't get hired. These employers have this stigma about them that's keeping them from getting hired. It's keeping them from getting jobs. And now it's like you need one, bare minimum, just to survive, or just barely to survive, to like barely scrape by. You need a good job. It's the system we're in right now is clearly not sustainable. And we can't go back to what we had before. The time for making money, like in the 80s and 90s, it's over now. We are not going to have the same opportunities our parents did. And they're not going to understand, as much as you take the time to try to explain to them like that things have changed. It's like these like boomers are just like so not into listening to what you have to say. They just think you're being spoiled and lazy and whatnot. But, there's like this generational divide. They don't experience the same things we experience, so it only makes sense they wouldn't understand. So I'm at a loss for what to do here. I can't help but feel like if it's hard for me, in certain times, and it's hard for everyone, even like successful people, well, where does that leave like the average person or the below average person? It's like the disparity is so huge. So where do we go from here? I don't really know what the answer is, but for anyone who feels like they may have been left behind, or maybe feels as if they've kind of just been treading water, just know you're not alone. We're all going through this. We're all feeling this. And I wish every single one of you the absolute best in all of your endeavors. I really do.